Okay, so this morning I am joined by Autumn Richardson. Autumn is Director of Distance Learning here at HCU, and I thought it would be really good to have Autumn join us today because of the unique nature of the situation that educational institutions are facing all over the United States and even the world as we transition from campus classes to all remote learning. And so Autumn, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I guess first of all, every institution's unique. So the first question I have is, what was the transition like for you as the Director of Distance Learning at HCU? What was the transition like for you as the administration made the decision to go from campus courses to all remote? What was that like for us as an institution?
As an institution, I think that it went very well. It was a fairly smooth transition compared to what I think some other institutions have experienced. Heritage offers a distance learning degree program and has for 30 years. So we're sort of knee deep in the business already. The infrastructure was already in place. The way that our campus courses are set up, they are merged with distance learning courses so that the campus students were seeing regularly and interacting regularly with DL students. So in essence, they witnessed DL, distance learning is what I mean when I say DL. They witnessed that in action every day in their classes. There's shared rosters, shared resources. So when these campus students had to move home or move off campus and begin to learn remotely, they knew what was expected of them. They had seen it in action. They knew how it worked. And on the side of our faculty, because of our model, all but one of our instructors was already teaching online. So the training and equipment, and again, the infrastructure was already in place. We had a few minor hiccups, but it was probably easy peasy relative to what some schools are enduring right now.
Yeah, from my perspective, it certainly felt that way. And, we weren't, and it's, your leadership needs to be commended in your department, because it wasn't the scrambling to try to come up with, how do we do this? How do we offer resources to our students? There wasn't that kind of scrambling, it didn't seem to me. And I really appreciate sort of what you've been able to design as far as the DL department here that was able to help our campus students sort of, maybe not seamlessly, but it as close probably to it as you could expect, transition from their campus courses to remote learning. All of us are sort of dealing with disruptions. It doesn't seem to matter what industry you're in, what your job is, what your lifestyle is like. We're all facing disruptions. From both the teacher's perspective and from the student's perspective, is there a particular need for patience as we transition? And I guess by that, I mean, if a student started the semester as a distance learning student, really there was no change. But going from campus to remote learning, is this pandemic remote learning what a student should expect from a DL experience in a normal world, or is there patience needed on both sides of this as we sort of figure out what to do in this weird reality we found ourselves in?
Right, absolutely. I would say that both sides, students and instructors, have had their lives disrupted. So patience, and I would even add, grace and flexibility to that. Some students, especially at K through 12 schools, but I would argue even in colleges, they relied on school for, safety, food, love, and they're stuck in unstable environments. Some students will struggle with the new models because they're worried about testing or grades or things like that. Other students may thrive. They may find their voice when they're removed from social pressures. And so you're going to you're going to see different reactions from different students, and you're going to have to engage them differently than you maybe did before. If I could stress the phrase that keeps coming to my mind, I saw it maybe in a webinar or something, but connection before content. That's what I would tell students and instructors over and over and over again. Connection before content. If the relationship is not there, if the connection, the safety, if that's not present, the content doesn't matter. I saw a Twitter post, and I thought I wanted to share this. I just really thought this hit home. Have you ever taken an online class? How about 6 at once? When you were a teenager with spotty Wi-Fi? Oh, and needing to share a device with your siblings while trapped at home, filled with fear and anxiety? Yeah, me neither. And so even though I work with distance learning on a daily basis, it's not the same thing. This is not the same thing. I would say, even some of our distance learning students who do this all the time, I would say that they probably have been affected in some ways. Some of them may have done their schoolwork while their smaller children were away at public school. And now everyone's having to coexist in the same house. Everyone's having to find workspaces all over their homes to get life done. Teachers are overwhelmed. Most have never done this. They've lost their classrooms or offices with their resources. They've never had to send out 95 separate emails, to students in a matter of a couple of days just to touch base and check on them and see how they're doing. So, this is new territory for most. I'd say grace, flexibility, patience, all of that's important right now.
Yeah, I really appreciate you highlighting the challenges that students are facing that they might not have anticipated. And that was really interesting what you said about distance learners, whose workspace or whose typical day has changed or been disrupted in some way too. And so that reminds me that all of us are dealing with different issues and different challenges. And so it's a real opportunity, it seems to me, for us all to be, as you mentioned, be gracious, be patient, and sort of model, good behavior as far as how we interact with each other. And I appreciate that a lot. For a student that, some students thrive in a self-paced environment, other students need a little bit of external motivation. For a student that is typically relying on due dates and, having the teacher sort of structure how the class develops. Are there any tips that you could give students to be successful in a self-paced environment like they find themselves in right now?
Sure. I think that communicating early and often with instructors is important to get clarity if there's anything that you don't understand about expectations, content, any of that. And then I would say prepare yourself, get up, get dressed. It's okay to have a few pajama days. I've done the same thing, but recognize that productivity is reduced if you don't prepare mentally and physically to learn. And so trying to develop those good habits. I would say that creating a designated workspace is so very important. We've actually had to move furniture in our house to mitigate these circumstances right now. We had to set up a room where Adam could work, my husband, and we had to rearrange the bedroom and bring in an extra table that we had to set up a space for me to be able to work. And then the kids already had their desks in their rooms, but, creating a designated workspace that's free of some of the typical distractions in your home, I think that's important. If you're in a live synchronous class, like a Zoom meeting or a Microsoft Teams meeting or something like that, I feel like it's really important to leave your video on. The reason for that being, now if you're in K through 12, you may not be able to do that, but if you're in a college higher ed setting, leave your video on. And the reason I say that is when I turn my video off when I'm in a meeting, I start to multitask and do other things. I get distracted. And a lot of times I miss content. So, and there's actually something called virtual eye contact. Looking at your webcam, looking at the screen is important. It's good feedback for your teachers, and it keeps your attention where it's supposed to be and keeps you from being distracted. And then I would say take breaks. Plan your breaks. Those are important. Self-care is really important right now. Being stuck in the same house all the time with more people than you're used to being in there with for long hours, it's really important to take breaks. Go outside, and don't feel guilty for that. It will in the end help you to learn better and be more productive.
That's great. I really think those kind of tips would be helpful for students, but really for anybody that is trying to navigate, these sort of changes to their daily routine, and that's very helpful. As with the little time we have left, from the teacher's perspective, and I'm typically thinking of it from a college instructor's perspective, but this could be, you've addressed K through 12 education as well, because you've got kids at home that, are in K through 12, but also college. And so you may be able to bring a parental perspective to it as well. But what are some ways that teachers can engage students in this environment in ways that promote success and promote learning?
I would start with the same thing that I said for students. Communicate early and often. That's really important. Students are looking for connection. They feel lost. And so making expectations clear from the very beginning, set a roadmap. Set a roadmap that has small milestones along the way so that students can see where they're going. That takes away a lot of the fear and a lot of the anxiety that's present right now. Find a way to be present emotionally for your students, even though you can't be physically, if it's someone that you physically engage with daily before. Back to that thing about school being a safe haven. Figure out a way, whether it's make a funny video of your family doing something, or of yourself, or of your pet, and send that to your students. Find ways to continually connect in a social way that's appropriate. And then they'll be ready to engage in learning. One of the words that we use in the higher ed world when it comes to instructional design is chunking your courses. And that means putting it into smaller bite-sized pieces so that the task of finishing the race is not so daunting and they can see those milestones. And so I like that word, chunking your content into those manageable pieces. And if, back to the video conferencing, if you're doing that, make sure that you have good lighting and that you're doing that virtual eye contact. If it was really dark and grainy in this room and you could barely see me and I was staring down at my paper while I'm reading the lesson to you, I'm going to quit. I'm going to stop paying attention. So make sure that you're engaging in that way. And then finally, use tools. There are so many free tools available right now. Companies have just gone above and beyond, I think, in providing opportunities. Kahoot is free right now, and you can use it online. I mean, that's a fun way to get kids involved and adults involved. Loom is a good screen recorder that I would recommend. Use digital whiteboards if you're teaching something like math and you want to be writing. If you video conference, don't just video conference, poll and use breakout rooms and things like that. Another phrase from the higher ed world is regular and substantive interaction. That's the big $5 phrase for what constitutes online learning: regular and substantive interaction. And really all that is three things. It's have a schedule, discuss course related content, and make sure the communication goes in both directions.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I found those last three things are, very helpful, just to sort of, make sure that I'm thinking about the student on a regular basis, in those three ways. And I really appreciate you spending time with us. I know your life has got to be kind of crazy right now, but I love your sign as we close off, that's behind you, surround yourself with tacos, not negativity. I think we can agree on that.
Yep.
And
I can't wait to go eat Mexican again.
yes, I think we're all looking forward to something like that. And thank you again, and stay safe, and appreciate you helping us today.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.